Joining me on the program now from the Integrity Institute, Dr Bryce Edwards. Bryce, kia ora.
Morena, Andrew.
This is, there needed to be changes within the fishing industry. I think everybody agreed on that one. But Shane Jones seems to have this particular ideological focus to be pro-business, to be pro-development, even at the expense of the environment. Is this another example of that, Bryce?
Oh, absolutely. Look, Shane Jones, it's easy to forget that he was a Labour MP for quite a while.
Yeah.
And even back then, he used to give the Green Party a bit of jip about saving whales and so forth. And, there's a constituency, and it's not just business. I think there is a lot of workers and a big part of the public that see that we do need to have industry in New Zealand. No, that we need to have sort of extraction of fuel and minerals, and that we need to, yeah. Feed the people and
Yeah.
so forth. And so Shane Jones has always been the person that's really directed himself at that constituency.
And
When he was at Labour, and now especially when he's in New Zealand First. So really standing up for the miners,
yeah.
the drillers, the fishers, the foresters,
Yeah.
everyone that kind of has a bit of an impact on the environment. And so he poo-poos a lot of the sort of what he calls the greenies, and
Yeah.
I don't know, he's got all sorts of
He's good with
creative
words on
names.
this one, actually, and saying, hey, I would prefer more jobs and slightly less lizards, or, picks a fight with geckos and skinks on this one. And I mean, he's good and eloquent in the way which he demonstrates this.
He's colourful,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. More colourful than a gecko, perhaps.
And what I do appreciate about Shane Jones is he is quite transparent about it.
Yeah.
He doesn't really pretend to be a protector of the environment, or the fish or the lizards, or the what did he call it? The blind Freddy the Frog,
Yeah, yeah.
etc. So he's pretty clear there, and he also is quite clear that he is a man for industry.
Yeah.
And so he says he's going to champion the mining industry. He's going to champion the fishing industry, and yeah. So there's a bit of transparency there at least.
Yeah, exactly.
But whether it's right though to have a minister that's responsible for these different areas, so in this case fisheries, carrying out a huge deregulation of the rules on on what fish can be caught and the procedures for it, when he's so clearly I don't know, I guess as critics would say, in the pocket of big fish,
Yeah.
or certainly of the fishing industry, in terms of donations, in terms of his links to various companies that he's been actually professionally involved in.
Yeah, I mean, let's cut to this actually, because this is a valid political point of view. If you're saying, hey, environment on one side, business and economics on the other, I think it's a bit of a false dichotomy. But let's play this game.
Yeah.
The lizards, the blind Freddo the Frog, they don't have lobby groups. They don't have deep pockets.
Yeah.
They don't have the influence over politicians that business does. Not accusing anybody of corruption, but there's perhaps more influence on one side of the ledger than the other. We've already got weighted scales, Bryce.
Yes, I mean, I guess Shane Jones might say, well, you've got all these environmental groups that are there lobbying for the fish and the lizards.
Yeah.
You've got Greenpeace, Forest and Bird, and so forth. But I agree with you. They don't have the same resources. They don't have the same connections, the ability to give political donations.
Yeah.
And at the Integrity Institute, we've been doing a bit of work on donations, and so I was counting up how many donations, how many dollars they've got, New Zealand First and Shane Jones, from fishing sources over the last 8 years, and it's over $100,000.
Wow.
And lots of different donations, some of them big, some of them small, and some of them go to Shane Jones, some of them go to other New Zealand First candidates and the party, but there certainly is no other politician or party that is so much funded by fisheries.
Yeah.
And so I do think is something of a conflict of interest for
Hmm.
Shane Jones to be the minister making those
It's
decisions when
certainly
he's so clearly
I mean, certainly
fighting.
he's transparent about his view, but perhaps less transparent about what may have influenced his view in that regard. So good on you for the work that you do at the Integrity Institute. I think the other thing which is different about this one, you can be pro mining and anti frog. You can be pro drilling and anti whatever animal that impacts. But actually, in the fishing industry, the environment is the industry. That if overfishing creates a problem for the environment, that's going to be bad news for the industry in the long term. This is perhaps different than some of the other categories.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And I don't think the fishing industry is actually united on all these reforms and some of the rollbacks. So New Zealand First and Shane Jones have been particularly keen on rolling back the cameras they have on boats.
Yep.
So the last government introduced cameras on boats just to keep a check on regulations being adhered to by fishing boats. And Shane Jones has always been against that and has talked about rolling that back, banning those cameras. But even some of the fishing industry say, no, we actually do want cameras on boats.
Yeah.
We need that social license, if you like. We need to prove that we're not catching dolphins
Yeah.
and so forth. So Shane Jones was a bit more gung-ho on some of these things. The fishing industry are like, well, actually, no, we do need to protect the coral. We do
Yeah.
need to protect dolphins, and they're aware that the public aren't gonna just let them get away with just doing whatever they want.
When we look at the fishing industry in New Zealand, I know that there are significant iwi interests within
Yeah.
fishing companies in New Zealand. Having said that, there's also significant overseas investment in our fishing industry. Who holds the balance of power in terms of the vested interests within fishing in New Zealand?
That's a great point, Andrew. Certainly, we had some treaty settlements back in the 80s and 90s, and the Treaty of Waitangi Fishing Commission was set up. I think that was by the Bolger government,
Yep.
national government. And Shane Jones was actually the chair of that for quite a while. He was also the chair of the Sea Lord Group.
Hmm.
So that's one of the big fishing companies. And
Essentially,
so yeah,
iwi owned Sealord. Would that be fair?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a bit of difference on who owns the different fisheries, and some of it's iwi, some of it's overseas interests. Tallies is a big one.
Yep.
So there are lots of New Zealand companies that are New Zealand owned. But yes, they're all private operators, and some of them have, yeah, better environmental records than others.
Yep.
But like I say, a lot of them donate to New Zealand First, and they're obviously advocating, lobbying for changes, and that's what we've seen today
Mm.
with these big changes. Actually, we haven't talked about what they are.
Okay.
I should just quickly say, so the big changes are that Shane Jones is talking about is he's changing the regulations for how the allocation of fishing limits are set.
Hmm.
And so he wants to set them out, I think for a longer time, like 5 years, instead of doing it every 1 year. He's tightened up to stop some of the environmental groups being able to challenge some of these limits and challenge some of the decisions. And with those cameras on boats, he's essentially saying that the public won't have any access. They
Okay.
can't use the Official Information Act to get footage of what the boats are doing. And so he's calling that pro-industry reforms, and I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, thank you for your insight on this. Yeah, certainly something about this is fishy one way or another. Bryce, thanks for your insight. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.